Tonight, 10 News is embarking on a new initiative called the Transparency Project. Its focus is to investigate officer-involved shootings and law enforcement misconduct cases over the past 10 years in San Diego County.
Our Team 10 investigator Adam Mercruzen is here with the project that came about from a new law here in California. Adam.
Yeah, on January 1st of this year, a new law called SB 1421 allowed for investigative files of certain topics like officer-involved shootings to be released for public review. Now, we requested them from every law enforcement department in the county, and we've been getting them for the past several months. Just this past week, the city of San Diego released video and audio files for 2 cases involving one of its officers who's been involved in 4 fatal shootings. The newly released video gives us insight into what he encountered and the decisions he made during those intense confrontations.
Go ahead and hold all priority 2 calls.
December 10th, 2017. Officers respond to a 911 call about a guy approaching a house asking for a knife to commit suicide. When officers arrive, they say 24-year-old Kyle Zahachevsky began throwing rocks or bricks at them.
Yeah, he's throwing rocks.
Zahachevsky then broke into a home and grabbed a knife. You're looking at newly released body camera video from Officer Richard Butera. Within seconds of entering the house, Butera and Zahachevsky come face to face.
Hey, boss. On the ground, drop the knife. Drop the knife. He's got a knife. Drop the knife. Shots fired, subject's down.
We paused the video the moment the shots were fired. An internal investigation would find Butera fired to defend and protect himself and another officer. Investigators say this is a picture of the knife Zahachevsky was holding. Now to January 2016. Police say 30-year-old Joshua Sisson pulled a knife on his boyfriend at the Mercy Garden Apartments, then ran off. Officers found him a few blocks away. Police say when an officer told Sisson to stop, he pointed a knife at the officer in an aggressive stance.
Standing right about here with a knife.
The voice you heard was Officer Butera describing where he was when he fired a single shot hitting Sisson in the chest. The release of records on this officer-involved shooting included photos of the domestic violence scene, an audio interview with the officer, walkthroughs with the investigative team, and taped interviews of witnesses.
His hand went from his waistband. I didn't see exactly what was in his hand, but he made one fluid motion, like that he was drawing on the officer.
In the end, investigators determined Officer Butera's decision to shoot was reasonable. The same conclusion investigators reached in 3 other incidents Butera's been involved in. In a statement to Team 10, the San Diego Police Department said, in part, each of these incidents were investigated by the Homicide Unit, and the investigations were ultimately presented to the San Diego County District Attorney's Office for review. Officer Butera was cleared in all of the incidents. We hope the community examines each case independently and comes to the same conclusion. And in all instances, Butera's actions have been justified by authorities. Butera has been with the department for 17 years. Okay, these are just 2 files. We've got dozens more. We've got hours of video and audio. And in full transparency, we're putting what we can on our website so you can read through them and watch the videos for yourself. That'll be coming in the coming days. Adam Mercruzen, Team 10.
From across the country to here at home, there is no denying the racial tensions between law enforcement and some communities.
And Team 10 is taking a deeper look at the issues surrounding race and bias and what's being done to improve relationships. Investigator Melissa Masiha is here now, and law enforcement says that it starts with their training early in their careers.
Yes, it does start early on. Kim starts an academy learning about diversity and bias with continual training throughout the years. The question is it enough, and does it carry over to patrolling the streets? That answer depends on who you ask.
Hands up, don't shoot.
We've seen it. Outrage over officer-involved shootings in communities of color. San Diego County is not immune to it either. Opinions vary about officers and relationships with those they serve.
You show respect, they give it back.
It can have a good impact on someone, or it can have a bad impact on someone.
Student Jaden Asawa has had positive experiences with police. His cousin is an officer, but he says people's past can shape their present thoughts.
Family-wise, or, sometimes historical-wise, people don't connect with police.
Bishop Cornelius Bowser grew up in a gang.
I was up to no good every day.
But turned his life around. He's now a local activist, vocal about what he calls inequities in policing. That includes over-policing with more negative than positive interactions.
The community is saturated with law enforcement. They're looking specific for specific people. So when a black person is just by being black, you know, and young, that makes me a criminal. That makes me a threat.
He feels there's not enough community policing, defined as the use of partnerships and problem-solving techniques to proactively address concerns.
The culture has to be changed, and the way they come in our community and police our community, they have to build those relationships, and they have to be here long enough, right?
The district attorney's office analyzed officer-involved shootings over the past 25 years. White officers make up more than 70% of those involved in these shootings. When it comes to the race of those on the other end of the police gun, nearly 40% are white, 36% are Hispanic, and 17% are black. Bowser points out the population of black people is far less than that. It's about 6% in the county, according to latest U.S. Census numbers.
Black people, they're the ones that get stopped the most. They're the ones that cars get searched the most.
We interviewed the heads of the 3 largest law enforcement agencies in the county to ask them their strategies on racial bias training and diversity.
What I try to focus on is who we're recruiting. We're constantly evaluating our training.
It's really all about people and relationships.
It starts in the academy for all local law enforcement with more than 20 hours of cultural diversity training. Then there's continuous professional training every couple of years. In the sheriff's department,
we always put a block, 2 hours, 4 hours of cultural diversity training.
Do you feel that that is enough?
Well, right now, I think it's enough. We can always do more.
I asked about the department's staffing. About 54% of its sworn personnel are white, 6% are black, 31% are Hispanic. Sheriff Gore says it's close to representing the population in the sheriff's jurisdiction, but not quite there.
We're not exactly where I'd like to be right now, but it's a time-consuming process.
The law enforcement leaders we spoke with agreed a diverse staff helps with working with a diverse community.
When it comes to that diversity, are you where you want to be?
I'm not, and that's one of the things that we've really been focusing on.
San Diego Police Chief David Nislight said that and community policing are top priorities. He does not agree with criticism that there's a lack of community policing in the department.
Look at this police department, everything they do, all the different problem-solving meetings they go to, all the different events they go to.
For Chula Vista Police Chief Roxana Kennedy, she spoke about implicit bias training her entire department went through, put on by the Anti-Defamation League. It's designed to reduce the influence of bias in interactions and decision-making.
It makes you become more aware.
Our community is telling you we don't feel safe.
With racial tension, not a new concept with police.
How do you ease that tension?
By being involved, by coming to the table and having conversations. If we're working against each other, it's going to be much more difficult.
Whether or not that racial tension has gotten better or worse.
I asked them to look at individual cases, not judge every deputy sheriff and San Diego police officer by what they see on the news from all over the country. This is a people-person type of business. It's your ability to talk to folks. It's about your ability to interact with folks.
We asked each department's diversity training and breakdown of officers by race. We have that posted on our website, 10news.com. Most departments cooperated, but El Cajon and Escondido Police did not release any information for this story. Escondido Police actually told me they would not be responding. The chief, Sheriff Gore, Chief Nislight, and Chief Kennedy had much more to say, including how social media has changed things. Their extended interviews are also on our website under the Transparency Project. I'm Melissa Masiha, Team 10.
For decades, internal documents about officers' use of force were limited to just law enforcement. But a new California law changed that. And now some of the most private materials are being released to the public.
As part of our Transparency Project, investigator Adam Rakusin sat down with the San Diego Police Department to talk about how the department investigates its own.
Yeah, let me show you this. This is a report from 2016. It's more than 600 pages. There were more than 100 911 calls along with it, witness interviews and video. I asked the police department to walk me through how they got here and if releasing all of this is helping bridge the gap between the department and the public.
What's your location?
Chaos. That's what you're hearing in this 911 call. The first information officers get is a guy with a gun that shot his ex-wife and is threatening her family. By the time they get to the house in the City Heights area, 4 people were shot and a woman was being held in the middle of the street with a gun to her head.
Get on the ground right now! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Get on the ground!
Officer Ross Bainbridge shot and killed 22-year-old Juan Carlos Fernandez, saving the woman.
Shots fired, shots fired.
Unfortunately, his actions came after Fernandez killed the woman's parents. At this point, the incident's over, and the police department's investigation into the suspect and one of its own is just beginning. It starts at the scene of the shooting.
That is approximately 0052 hours here with a walkthrough with Officer Ross Bainbridge.
You can get very accurate information right away, and you can start to get a feel for what actually occurred.
Wes Morris is the captain of the San Diego Police Department's Internal Affairs Unit.
The initial investigation is going to be from a criminal standpoint, and you're going to have the homicide unit is going to roll out there, and they're going to start their investigation.
Using this case as an example, the department produced a 600-page report. The analysis documented everything from lab reports to officer and witness statements, firearms and chain of custody reports. There's also dozens of audio and video clips showing body-worn camera and 911 calls.
I'm on the phone asking the dispatch, where's the police? Where's the police? He's coming this way.
Corey Frazier says he called 911.
Now you're shot. There's another shot.
Frazier tells me he took cover behind a windowsill, his brother behind a tree. The next morning, detectives followed up on their call.
They sat there and did their investigating well into the morning.
It's not a rubber stamp. There's a lot of work that goes into it. There's a lot of people who really do want to find out the truth of what happened in all these type of incidents.
At the end of a homicide investigation, the report is passed to the district attorney's office. After the DA's decision, the internal affairs investigation begins.
For an officer-involved shooting case, specifically, we're looking the most important thing we're looking to is whether or not the use of that lethal force was within our policy.
That 600-page homicide report and supporting documents are passed to an IA investigator.
They will start to put the picture together of what occurred from a policy and procedure standpoint. Sure. They may even call in interviews, and we've done that.
Their completed investigation will go to the Community Review Board on Police Practices.
If we find something that is inappropriate or wrong, or if there's a policy violation, we're going to bring that out.
There's a lot of information that we can start delving into because of this law, the 1421, and I think out of that's going to be good information.
Barry Pollard is the chair of the Citizens Advisory Board on Police Community Relations. He says releasing the documents to the public is a good start to transparency, but believes public trust goes beyond documents.
The CAB has 30 recommendations that we're waiting on a response for, and it is addressing employment, training, racial profiling.
Those are topics that will be taken up another day. For the department, they hope the documents show just how in-depth their investigations really are.
The citizens expect us to hold ourselves accountable. They expect the department and every officer to do the best job that they possibly can. And how we maintain that is through accountability.
And command teams, firearms department, and the training departments are also involved in these investigations. So far, the department's released records on more than 20 cases. You can access and read through them on our website, 10news.com. That's also where you can find the list of those 30 recommendations, something the police department says will be discussed at a public meeting next month. Adam Rakusin, Team 10.
Shot to death by an officer. The fear is real for many families who have to call 911 on their mentally ill loved ones.
As part of our 10 News Transparency Project, our Team 10 and investigative reporter Jennifer Kastner rode along with San Diego Police to better understand how officers respond to these mental health emergencies.
Yeah, Steve, this was really interesting for us. Tonight, we're looking at what police say they're doing right to de-escalate potentially deadly encounters. A warning, some of the video is graphic.
Drop it! Drop it! Drop it!
Body camera video shows the moment before officers shot and killed an El Cerrito man this summer who had charged them with a shovel. His family says he was mentally ill. They called police when he started throwing bricks at his aunt.
It's really bothering our family what happened because it's not a threat.
Police say an officer fired a taser, but it didn't have any effect on Dennis Carolino, who began to advance. The DA's office is still reviewing the case, but it's stories like this that alarm local mother Cheryl Canson.
Do both of your sons go through episodes of psychosis?
Absolutely.
One of her sons is bipolar, the other schizophrenic.
They're unable to identify or distinguish whether the voice is outside or it's their own voice or it's a separate voice inside.
Both are now incarcerated, but she says she always worried about their interactions with police.
I don't really look at law enforcement in a bad way, but they need to be trained in dealing with mentally ill people.
Yeah, I'm very proud of the training that we receive.
We rode around Balboa Park with San Diego Police Lieutenant Carmelene Rivera. Here, officers meet people from all walks of life.
But it's also a place that oftentimes we encounter individuals that have mental illness.
Also with us, Dr. Mark Marvin, San Diego County's director of PERT, the Psychiatric Emergency Response Team.
We are basically providing the bulk of mental health training to law enforcement in San Diego County,
which includes 11 area law enforcement agencies. PERT teams are made up of unarmed licensed mental health clinicians and trained sworn peace officers. Together, they respond to 911 calls. A law enforcement officer first assesses the scene for safety, followed by a clinician who provides specialized care.
The goal is always de-escalation.
You talk to them like regular people.
This year, the San Diego County DA's office announced an initiative to fund de-escalation training for police officers. A 25-year study from the DA found that 79% of officer-involved shootings had some evidence of drug use or mental health conditions.
Our training philosophy is that when officers or PERT clinicians are encountering people in crisis, they're not just a collection of symptoms. They're people that have very tough stories to tell, and we want to know what their story is.
Really, it's just coming in at the appropriate level with the tone, like anything else.
Officers are taught how to communicate and look for clues before turning to any force.
It depends on a lot of factors. Are people clenching their hands? Are they not responding to basic commands? Do they have any weapons in their hands? Have there been threats made?
California state law mandates that officers get mental health training. Some agencies, like San Diego Police, get more field training and classroom time than others, with videos like this.
Stop! It's okay. We're here to help make it stop.
Dr. Marvin says San Diego County is well ahead of the national training curve, but breaking stigmas will take time.
You said you don't want police to come and kill. You want them to come and diffuse?
Yes, absolutely. Please. I'm crying out, please.
And the National Alliance on Mental Illness has a list of recommended things to say and do if you have to call 911 on a family member who's having a mental health crisis. We've got details on our website, 10news.com. Look for this story under Transparency Project, a 10 News partnership with Solutions Journalism. And we also want to hear from you. Do you have questions about how police investigate themselves or how police shootings can be prevented? Join our Team 10 Facebook group. You can find a link on our website under this story. In the studio, Jennifer Kastner, 10 News.
Team 10 is shedding light on issues involving law enforcement accountability as part of our new initiative, the Transparency Project.
For San Diego Police, one solution on bridging the gap with the community is by bringing them behind the scenes of what they do. Team 10's Melissa Macias shows us how they say the program Inside SDPD helps do just that.
What do we want? Justice. There can be a divide that exists between law enforcement and the public.
Earl McNeil!
That divide seen in demonstrations like this one. Recently, dozens marched in San Diego streets to protest what they call police brutality and rogue officers.
We're not here to say we hate all police. That's not what we're here for. We're here to say that law enforcement who is acting outside the bounds of justice, equality, equity, those officers need to be fired. They need to be arrested. They need to be jailed if need be.
There is one thing both sides agree on, wanting to build better relationships. San Diego Police sees one program they're involved with as helping with that goal.
Walk up and again make contact with the driver and get her license and registration.
Can you put your hands in the wheel, please?
It's called Inside SDPD, hosted along with the San Diego Police Foundation.
Fire run ready.
From taser use to use of force simulations.
Police, anyone inside the building? Come out now, so the police dog is going to find you and fight you.
And canine demonstrations. The event lasts several hours, held a few times a year.
The goal is to make these situations as realistic as possible. In this scenario, officers pull over an unknown vehicle and then they explain some of the hidden dangers that they face.
It was eye-opening for participant Helene Auerbach.
Certainly with the body cameras and the shootings are, when you see it from one angle and then you see the same thing from a different angle, it's a completely different scenario.
Very eye-opening.
For teenager Logan Miller.
You think it's a simulation and you're told it's simulation, but when you have the props and everything's realistic and the sound's very, very loud and you're actually being interacted with on screen, very, very, again, the word I keep saying it, but it is realistic. It truly is. You are submerged in that situation.
I would just say to keep an open mind, understand that we have a very difficult job to do.
In an era where community members are demanding transparency.
That's something the San Diego Police Department is really striving to do. For instance, all of our policies and procedures can be found on our website, and we hold events like these to invite the community out so they can see exactly how we're trained.
I think everyone should do this. I think every child should be exposed to this in school.
Melissa Masiha, Team 10.
And the next Inside SDPD event will be in December. This one is focused specifically on canines. And we want to hear from you. If you have questions about police accountability, join our Team 10 Facebook group. Visit our Transparency Project section at 10news.com as well for a link to our Facebook discussion. Violent takedowns and officer-involved shootings caught on camera. Body cameras are now in widespread use across San Diego County.
As part of our Transparency Project, Team 10 investigator Adam Rakusin set out to learn more about body camera policies and what type of impact the cameras are having in the community.
Stop right there and let's talk. Sheriff's Department!
They're some of the most controversial.
Okay, I don't want to put hands on you. You're walking away from me. Show your hands.
And impactful moments.
Please, don't not resist. Roll over, dude. No.
Of police officers' interactions with the public.
Hey, they're right here. Hey, calm down.
Under a new law, many of these once secret recordings
We're done, dude.
are now being released.
Let's go. Get him, girl.
Body-worn camera is, in my opinion, it's another piece of evidence to what occurred.
Rob Samuels is the sergeant in charge of video analysis for the San Diego County Sheriff's Department. Under Senate Bill 1421, a law enforcement transparency law, the Sheriff's Department released more than a dozen body-worn camera recordings. The recordings are the end product, capturing moments that could be used in court to prosecute a suspect or sue a department. But to get to that end, departments have laid out policies that guide how and when to use the cameras.
Whenever a deputy is anticipating that they're going to be taking some enforcement action, they should be turning it on.
This is a look at the Sheriff's Department's 5-page policy. It covers everything from training to camera position, when and where to record, and rules for reviewing the video.
Deputies are not required to tell people that they're recording, but sometimes they may. They can if they choose to.
The department equipped more than 1,000 deputies with body-worn cameras.
On average, we see about 60 minutes of recording per camera per day. And at any given time and point, we have about 250 cameras out in the field.
Ashish Kakad is the Chief Information Officer for the San Diego County Sheriff's Department. He says deputies are allowed to review body camera recordings, but only their own. Access is extremely limited.
It's very much a role-based access. What is your role? What are you doing? What is your function? And based on that function, your appropriate access is determined.
Kakad says no deputy has the power to edit or delete video. In the 2 years the body-worn camera program has been up and running, he says the department hasn't deleted any video. The heads of the program believe it's been a good thing, but are cameras really doing anything to bridge the gap between the public and the people they serve?
You won't really ever know what it may have prevented in the way of a complaint.
We wanted to see what's happening in San Diego County, if body cameras changed how law enforcement interacts with the public. Team 10 requested use of force data dating back 5 years from departments across the county. Use of force is the type of response law enforcement uses to make an arrest or protect themselves or someone else. Here's what we found. Oceanside initially saw a big increase in use of force in 2018 when the cameras were deployed. This year, use of force numbers show a giant decrease. In the 3 years since El Cajon deployed body-worn cameras, use of force increased. In San Diego, a 2017 report showed since officers began wearing body cameras, there was a drop in complaints and allegations, fewer instances of high-level force, and de-escalation of some situations. While statistics vary, the Sheriff's Department says the cameras are just another tool.
We still do business like we've always done business. We write accurate reports, and the video that we record on body-worn camera just supports what the deputy writes.
And there are mixed studies on the effectiveness of body cameras and use of force. A 2017 study from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas found police body-worn cameras in Vegas reduced reports of misconduct and use of force. That same year, another study was done by a different group in Washington, D.C. and found that body-worn cameras had no detectable, meaningful effect on documented uses of force. We put what we found on our website. You can check it out yourself. Adam Rakusin, Team 10.
Where's she at? The chola with the bangs. Thought she was cool. Kicked it with gangs.
Monica Estrada is finally finding her voice.
I've done time throughout San Diego, Riverside County, banning. I've been to prison, Chowchilla, CIW, and this is the first time I've ever learned and got some tools that I know I'm definitely going to use to build my foundation when I leave here.
She's serving time for drug sales at the Las Colinas Women's Jail in Santee, although it's hard to tell she's incarcerated.
It eases their transition into the outside world because we treat it like it's an outside world.
The secured community is run by Captain James Madsen.
It's such a unique feeling being on this. I've been in several jails and prisons for work, but never one where I feel like I'm on a college campus.
Right. It was designed that way to give these ladies a feeling of community.
The innovative design is an example of what the Sheriff's Department believes it's doing right in a time of increased hostility toward law enforcement.
The last thing a deputy wants is to have a negative interaction with an inmate.
But it hasn't always gone smoothly for the San Diego County jails run by the Sheriff's Department. This April, a woman named Destiny Guns escaped from Las Colinas after climbing several fences and walls. A week later, she was recaptured. There's also security video from 2017 showing deputies punching an inmate at the Central Jail. He was wheeled off in a stretcher. And last year, Paul Silva, a schizophrenic, was rushed to the hospital from Central Jail. His family's attorney says he was stun-gunned 4 times and went into cardiac arrest. He later died.
On a daily basis, what are you doing to make sure that your officers aren't discriminating, aren't inflicting cruel and unusual punishment?
We monitor, we talk to our deputies, we move around, and really the deputies buy into the philosophy of reentry and rehabilitation. They understand that these folks are going to be in the community.
Madsen says the Sheriff's Department is building up its inmate safety program.
We've hired more staff, more medical staff, more psychologists, psychiatrists.
The department has been criticized in recent years for a high inmate suicide rate. 2 years ago, a grand jury report revealed that 46 people have committed suicide in San Diego County jails in the past 12 years. The suicide rate is the highest in all of California's large county jail systems. And just this Wednesday, 2 county supervisors are reporting that a comprehensive review of our jail's inmate care programs is being conducted. It comes after a recent Union Tribune investigation revealed a high number of in-custody deaths, including suicides.
Having it open like this, it helps us supervise the inmates.
This month, the Sheriff's Department reported it's been making changes based on recommendations from an independent suicide prevention expert, including enhanced monitoring, new mandatory suicide prevention training, and the creation of response teams to track self-harm reports, attempted suicides, and suicides.
They're doing yoga outside, they're working with each other, they're playing organized sports.
Patricia Ceballos helps run the wellness and vocational programs. She says Las Colinas was designed to create a more normal environment like the one outside jail so the women can focus on rehabilitation and re-entry.
Being able to empower, support, educate, and provide tools to people to be successful and to thrive in our community are important to us here in the Sheriff's Department.
Even the living quarters are unique. There are no cells.
Everyone can see everyone and talk to everyone.
Yeah, community.
It does not feel like jail. To me, it feels like more of maybe a high security rehab.
Melanie Jones was selling meth before she came here. Now she's studying culinary arts.
I'm a new person today.
Las Colinas was completed 3 years ago with almost $140 million from the county general funds. But is it working? 10 News asked the Sheriff's Department how many inmates have returned after being released. It reports that it looks at 3-year snapshots for all the jails combined. For 2014 to 2016, it was more than 36.5%. Then it went up. For 2015 to 2017, it was more than 37%. The 2016 to 18 data is being evaluated. So while the effectiveness as a whole may not yet be certain, it is still clear there are positive changes on personal levels.
My voice is powerful, and when I speak, people listen.
When she goes home, Estrada plans to write a book.
Some chicken soup for the inmate soul when life happens tribal.